So now we have the Brexit Chequers plan. What happens next? Let me try and break this down. After multiple government resignations, the Brexit Chequers plan seems to be just about hanging in there. But this isn't the end. This still isn't the end of Brexit. The House of Commons has to pass this agreement again in order for it to come into effect, and there are questions about whether it will even happen. Now, I reported on Monday that Cabinet Office Minister David Lidington was briefing members of Parliament from Labour, SNP and the Liberal Democrats on the Chequers deal while the resignations from the Tories were taking place. And I don't know about you, but it sounds to me that Theresa May is concerned about getting votes from even her own party and is now looking across to the other side of the Commons for support. The question is whether she can get enough support in her own party to pass the bill and whether the DUP will be on her side as well. Remember, the DUP have saved Brexit a few times already, and this might be another sticking point for those Conservatives in Northern Ireland who are basically propping up Theresa May's government. So Theresa May is concerned about support in her own party, and I think she has good reason to. The Financial Times reported on the 9th of July, the upheaval is at an early stage and much hangs on events later today, most notably the Prime Minister's personal performance in the House of Commons and her meeting with Tory MPs. But initial impressions are that Mrs May should survive the storm at Westminster for now. The much bigger doubt arising out of the past 24 hours is whether a Brexit deal on the lines Mrs May is proposing can possibly be passed by the Commons this autumn. Furthermore, the Times reported that a tiny number of Tory rebels would be enough to sink Brexit in a vote in the House of Commons. They reported, as few as 6 Tory MPs voting against Mrs May's final deal would defeat it in the autumn, assuming that the DUP voted with the government, but the opposition is united in rejecting it. One cabinet minister told the Times, quote, "I think that the Chequers compromise is going to be voted down in the Commons. I can't see how Labour don't reject it outright. I think there's quite a good chance nobody gets what they want and it's not clear where that leaves us," end quote. Another cabinet minister acknowledged that this was a real chance. They said that Mrs May's best hope was to warn Brexiteers that voting against her deal would result in chaos, and no deal would allow Jeremy Corbyn into power. Quote, "We need to convince the Brexiteers that we've left and that we will diverge, but this will take 15 years, not one. We can't do it in one leap, but we will get what they want." Did you hear that? 15 years, not 1 year, 15 years. Are we really meant to believe that actually if we just pass through the Chequers deal, it's fine, don't worry guys, let's just pass it for now, and then within the next 15 years, the politicians are going to start making changes so that we actually get Brexit? If they're not going to give us Brexit now, they're not going to give us Brexit in the next 15 years. So what happens next? It really depends. Some pro-Brexit Tories are giving Theresa May a week to drop the plan or face a no-confidence vote. So not only is the Chequers deal at risk, great, but there might be a change in leadership. The Chequers deal isn't the end of Brexit. The final agreement still has to be voted on in the Commons this autumn as part of the Withdrawal Agreement and Implementation Bill. That's the name of a future bill that will enshrine the withdrawal agreement between the UK and the EU into domestic law. Now, the question now is, can the Tory rebels bring down Theresa May in a vote of no confidence, or can enough of them vote against the Chequers deal to force them to do better and actually implement Brexit? And there's another question. If the House of Commons does vote down the Chequers deal this autumn, assuming that Theresa May hasn't stepped down by then, will the government be brave enough to redraft the entire thing and implement a real Brexit? And will the House of Commons vote in favour of that one as well? There's also the question of, will we just face a no-deal situation where we trade on WTO rules? That would be favourable for many Brexiteers, but will it even happen? The next step for Brexit is yet another vote in the Commons, with MPs battling to either improve the Chequers deal to something that resembles Brexit, or make it even worse and essentially keep us in the EU. If you want to see more from me and the rest of the Rebel team, remember to like and subscribe.